So, Mark, thank you for joining us. First thing I wanted to ask you is sort of what you do over at Numskull. And so this is what I do with all of the people I have on my stream, whether it be my normal stream that I have on Thursdays, or I'm gonna do it for this one for you, unfortunately. I ask everybody a question. So,
yep.
First off, I want you to introduce yourself. Let me know what you do over at Numskull, and then I want you to know what is the best accoutrements, the best toppings or the best extras to have on a set of fish and chips.
Curveball. Well, to introduce myself, so I'm Flynn. I work for Numskull Games. So we are a UK-based European games publisher. And in regards to Rico London, I've been doing quite a lot of marketing for the game, putting together a lot of promotional videos for the game, various bits on Twitter, been playing a lot of the game itself. So kind of joining Sam here today, very excited just to kind of talk you through this FPS because there is a lot of exciting stuff going on. But in regards to fish and chips, I don't know, man, I'm pretty plain dude.
That's fine.
Just go with the salt and vinegar probably.
Yeah, no, I like... That's totally me too. Because it's a little bit different, at least for United States specifically, because vinegar is much harder to find on a dinner table than it is over in London. I've been to London a few times, but like that's one of the things I always really liked is whenever I was able to go get like chips or something like that, there's vinegar on the table. Vinegar is my preferred topping for chips, and you cannot do. There's none of that. You have to ask for it here in America.
Wow,
it's really annoying.
That's a shock. That's sacrilege.
I know, right? If I were to tell you that, tell anybody from England, they'd be like, "What? So what do you do with your chips?" All right, so I'm gonna get into a game. So I have played a tremendous amount of this game, like on my own. Just because, like I said, I'm a shooter from like by trade. This is sort of I grew up playing shooters. I skipped school to play shooters, so like other than that in fighting games, like I'm very much a multiplayer based game player. And so one of the things I thought was really cool about this game, or just for 2021, it is very surprising for me to see a new co-op shooter, because with the internet getting better and consoles getting stronger, PCs getting stronger, for the most part we see that most games usually tend to the multiplayer side. So I want to know like how you feel about like the co-op aspect of this game, and how does it sort of bring something to this shooter specifically.
Sure. Well, the co-op side of Rico London is very, very important. So the actual inspiration for Rico itself, because Rico London is a sequel to Rico, not in plot, but in terms of gameplay itself. And the first Rico was very much inspired by buddy cop films. So Bad Boys Inc., huge inspiration for it. So it's kind of like a mixture of two worlds of 80s and 90s buddy cop films and action video games. So yeah, it's kind of like a perfect blending of those two genres together. And then just having an extra person playing along with you adds so much fun to the game itself anyway. Yeah. I mean, the inspiration of this game is very much taking the original Rico and improving every single aspect about it. So there's been lots of listening to players' feedback from the first game and kind of just implementing that, making sure there's more variety for the players and yeah, just different ways to play.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I think I realized early on when I started playing the game, was that there is definitely a lot of different play styles to play the game with. And there's like a variety of factors that go into that one. There's the sort of the beginning, the very first thing I think people notice when they start playing this game is that they see the slow-mo aspect, right? When you break down one of the doors, you get into the slow-mo, and like one of the things is that it becomes really important for you to sort of assess the situation. And a lot of people, like when I first started playing it, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna shoot everybody down and work on, just making sure I place all of my shots properly, right? And then later on I realized, like, ammo is a very strong resource in this game. So I sort of realized, like, maybe sometimes I should focus on like mailing the people who are closer to me, so how do I go about that, and how do I make decisions around that? So I thought that was always like a really, really cool part of the game.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the game definitely encourages a little bit of experimentation with the weapons that you're using. I had a chat with the developer of the game and asked him some of his favorite tips for actually playing, and his biggest advice to players was just to keep moving. So the idea is to kind of keep on your feet, dodge those bullets, kick through those doors, and when you kick through those doors, you do get that slow-mo boost. And that is kind of pivotal to actually pulling off those tricky shots, diving through the air, power sliding across the floor. It really does kind of make you feel like an action hero, and it is kind of complemented by that comic book aesthetic, which is obviously very reminiscent of other games like 13 from the past.
Absolutely, and I think like to that, like sort of that aspect of like that comic book style or like sort of the cartoony style is like having all of these really cool guns as well. This is like obviously like one of the other things that will immediately stand out is that a lot of the guns are like the power guns in this game, sort of have great names, bright colors, sort of extra attachments and stuff like that, right? And I think that part's really, really cool because you sort of immediately start, like you said before, a lot of experimentation. You learn that you sort of gravitate towards a certain set of guns that you might consider to be like your favorites, right?
Yeah,
Better than
definitely.
others.
Definitely, and it's fun with all the guns because I won't spoil it for anyone, but there's some great little references to action films and whatnot with the names of the guns themselves. So you might see some of them whilst you're doing the playthrough today. But yeah, it's a great little, just for lovers of action films, I think there's just a lot of fun to be had here.
Yeah, and you definitely feel like it. You can sort of choose to, like early on, what I was trying to do is like using the mechanic of the slow-mo. One of the first things I was doing is like, I'm just going to be like the coolest action hero, right? I'm just going to like move around, like blaze through people, like Rambo style. And then like later on, like I got into sort of like optimizing my runs and stuff like that. Like really trying my best to do as best as I possibly can. And then like that sort of dichotomy became really, really, really fun for me.
Definitely.
That's one of the things like I really, really started enjoying about the game was that once I started getting really heavy into sort of like experiencing the game and learning its ins and outs and stuff like that, there's like a lot of stuff you can start like min-maxing, right? You can start just learning how to like when it becomes important to reload, when it becomes important to pick up a gun over that, which guns sort of excel in certain situations. And I think there's so much of that you can really, really chew on it for a really long time until you sort of start perfecting your preferred run.
Yeah, 100%. And with each kind of level that you clear, you end up getting a choice of basically what upgrades you actually want to put into your build for your character. And that, again, it just kind of, if something doesn't work out for you in one run, you can kind of go for it again, pick something else. Maybe you pick an extra health pack or a better gun for you to use.
Right.
Some kind of like you've just cleared the floor anyway, so you'll be able to do it. But
yeah, we'll do it in a second.
So like there's just lots of different ways you can kind of change up your build if things aren't working for you.
Yeah, a lot of the times, you know, that sort of decision becomes like pretty great here. These one of the unique aspects of this game is the fact that it is sort of roguelike in the sense that things change routinely. And the level formats of every level changes every time you load up a game. The guns here, the weapons, the upgrades are consistently different, so you might have a different run depending on how it is, and it might actually influence how you sort of start picking games or picking guns and stuff like that, because there are definitely different properties to guns, whether it's like this gun is better at hip firing than this gun, so maybe it'd be better for you to do that sort of thing.
Did you have a favorite gun from when you've been playing so far? What was it?
Absolutely. It's between, for me, it's between the 1911 and the MP7/PDW. Those are just like, for some reason, like the fire rate, the handling, like that's how I play a lot of shooters. Sort of outside of this game. when I play a lot of shooters, I usually like to go for the fast-paced, heavy action sort of guns, even if they sacrifice range. I'm pretty confident in my ability to get in positions where I can use that range effectively.
Cool. Yeah, I found that just any gun that had a scope on it, a laser scope, was the most satisfying thing to use.
Really?
Yeah.
That's very interesting because I usually tend to lean on iron sights.
Cool.
That's very cool because
I just found it immensely satisfying being able to see so clearly where I was shooting.
No, that makes sense for sure. But
yeah,
it's cool because I generally think like I'm pretty normal when it comes to those sorts of things, but maybe like that's very neat that you have like a whole different experience to how you play the game over than I do. Like that's why like I'm showing off the sawn off right now, but that's like one of the reasons why I really like the sawn off is because it is so easy to see in front of me.
Yeah, fair enough. That makes sense. I mean, I guess certain weapons work better in certain floors of the tower as well.
Oh yeah.
The enemy styles will change quite a lot as you kind of progress, because we have mentioned kind of like the rogue elements of this game, but the game, it does have quite a stronger story focus this time around. You are trying to basically break up this drug deal, make it to the top of this tower block in London, and kind of as you progress, the floors will change. The layouts will always be different, but there'll always be these set floors that you progress through. So you start down in like a warehouse kind of area where some of the dodgy dealings are happening. Then you make your way up into an office block, so the scenario is a little bit different. Before, people have been coming at you with baseball bats from close range, and they've been a little bit easier to take down. And then it kind of gets more sophisticated as you go up. So you end up going through a residential area, you end up going through a casino. So I won't spoil the rest because there's a few more surprises, but the actual settings you end up going through, they get a bit more gang-like, and you get some more kind of capable enemies coming after you as well with better AI.
Yeah, I noticed like as I was going through and progressing towards the end, the one time I beat it, when I had when I got to the very end, it got increasingly difficult. Like sort of the first ones, it became very easy. I think this becomes one of the things like that's great about the slow-mo is that for beginner players, it's very nice for them to sort of be able to have that extra time to line up your shots if you're not someone like me who's played for a very, very long time.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I found when I first picked up and played it was it's just very approachable for a newcomer.
Right.
Even if you don't play many shooters, I think you could pick this up. There's an arcadey element to it, which is very replayable, and I think you just have a lot of fun, even if you've not even necessarily played a shooter before.
No, absolutely. I think, like, for the most part, like I was talking to you before, I consider myself a guy who mostly plays multiplayer games. Like, I grew up on fighting games, you know, like CSGO. I grew up on Call of Duty, Halo, that sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
So, like, to have this amount of fun in this game, it really came down to sort of having like so much to think about when I break down the doors, which I was like so surprised with when I was getting through it, because I was like, oh, early on I was just sort of picking shots and stuff like that, and sort of, you know, picking the game apart. And then later on I was like, oh man, like the target acquisition, learning which person to shoot first, you know, sort of getting an assessment of the land, where everything is, where's cover, where enemies can possibly be. These are all things that you sort of have to make that decision during the slow-mo, and it becomes like not necessarily like an overload, but sort of how much can you consume in that short amount of time. And I think that's really when you start progressing through the game and getting better at it, you sort of start seeing that strength in yourself.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's definitely a game that will test your abilities, and yeah, you're up against one of the little mini-boss style characters at the moment who poses a little bit more of a challenge, but the game will throw a fair few curveballs at you whilst you try and make it through the tower block.
Yeah, and then you get the first big gun here.
This is a great gun.
This is such a good gun. You get it first when you come into this level right here. And yeah, it becomes one of those things like this is really the gun that sort of opened my eyes onto how to like really end up playing this game, which is like making decisions based on what guns you have, right? Like this is a high capacity weapon, so you don't have to reload as much. Is it worth reloading it? Should I just dump it after I get done with it? Is it worth, going through another set of 100 over like reloading 30 every single time, sort of thing? Those are all decisions that you'll be making as you go along and playing through the game. And no, there's no right or wrong answer. It's really just a decision making on what you value as a player, what you come to value as you play along. Those things will change as you progress, not only through the levels, but sort of every run that you do, you'll learn something new every single time. And I think that that's one of those things that like I really, really liked about this game. So as I continue to play it throughout here and when we get to the launch of the game, those are the things that I am going to sort of refine as I go along.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the thing with the choice of guns is interesting as well, because obviously this game is fully playable in co-op. So when you're playing through on co-op, you won't have to make the same difficult choices in a sense, but you will be able to spot a gun that might be good for your friend. You can tell them where it is, where to go and get it if you've just seen an enemy drop it. And then you can one of you can kind of have a ranged gun, one of you could have a shotgun. There's kind of just a lot of ways to kind of make the co-op experience a little bit different between both of you. I mean, one of you could build your character in a completely different way to the other one. So it's just be interesting to see how those two builds work together.
Yeah, and with all of the different like upgrades that you can have, not only to your person, but all of the weapons and all of that, you definitely have a lot to work with. Mark, I wanted to thank you for joining us. This was a lot of fun. I love talking to you about the game. This is my first time I was able to talk to anybody from Numskull about the game specifically, and let me tell you, my personal account has a ton of hours into this game already. Because it's just really, really fun as I would consider myself at this point, like a veteran FPS player. I've been playing for 15 some odd years, maybe a little bit longer than that, to have fun with a single player / co-op shooter was very, very surprising to me. That's because I am like, let me tell you, I'm not even the person who gets interested in like sort of battle royales, which is the hot new thing right now, right? I'm very much a sort of old school 5v5 4v4 run the game sort of multiplayer guy, and so this is so different from that, and I'm still having a blast. So thank you to you specifically for all your hard work, and also to Numskull in their entirety for putting a lot of time and dedication into this.
No worries at all. I mean, we're absolutely thrilled to have been here. Thank you very much for having us. It's really cool to hear you're so excited about the game. The only thing I will add, actually, before I go, is if you're playing this on Nintendo Switch, you can actually play the entirety of the game co-op in tabletop mode, which is quite a cool feature, which a lot of FPS games don't necessarily have. So if you're there with a mate playing it, like at someone's like house, like away from a dock, like you can both do it co-op on the same screen.
Yeah, so which is the wonderful Switch thing of having two controllers in you at all times. That's awesome.
You will need two Joy-Cons. Yes. Two Joy-Cons each.
Hopefully you have not lost one of them.
yeah. No, I mean two per player, but.
Oh, two per player. Gotcha.
Yeah. I don't think you could pull off the control scheme with a single Joy-Con. But
you're right.
Yeah. But cool. Thank you very much for having me, Sami, and cheers everyone from All Aksys.
No, thank you so much. Guys, we're going to set up for Yomi, which is next game, Undernaut's Labyrinth of the Yomi. Please give us a short moment to get that set up, and then I'll be right back.